Brothers and sisters, welcome to another message from the Terran Empire. I'm your host, Mark Jones. I am by myself in this right now, but I hope to grow and I hope to spread this message of coming together of all people, but of course us black people as well. Peace, love, and happiness to the whole world. Now, we're here tonight to talk about the tenets. What are the tenets of the empire? What does it mean for the empire? Okay, the five are family, freedom, to take care of one's brother as one to take care of oneself, strength, and peace through whatever means. Okay, so you're asking yourself, these are just the five. There are more, but this is just the first five. Family. The family is the foundation of all societies. It is the first government. It is the first ruling anything in your life is your family. Your mother, your father, the president, vice president, whatever you want to take it. Somebody always leads the household. Family is very important for children. Children must be raised right. Children are a garden. If you raise the children right, they become fruitful, multiply like everything in a garden. If you raise them wrong, but sometimes no matter how good a parent is, some people just come out bad. It's not always the parent's fault if a kid will not necessarily adhere to one's parents. But also, parents must understand children do not belong to you. Children are a gift from God. If you believe in God, you don't have to. That's completely up to you. This is just my point of view. I'm not an atheist, but I'm not against people believing in whatever they want to believe in. Taking care of one's brother means to look out for everyone in the Terran Empire. This is called the Unitarian. The Unitarian is unity. Unitarian means also unity of church. Now, don't nobody have to go to the Unitarian church. The Unitarian church includes Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, even the ancient religions of our ancestors is included, if you wish to believe. If you choose not to believe in none of that and just be Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, that is fine. But long as you understand that you must not try to force your beliefs on nobody, and the Unitarian will not force its beliefs on you either. Another tenet that I'm thinking of is a unified language that every man, woman, and child on this planet must know. What I mean by that is not a language that we currently speak. Everybody knows English, Spanish, German, Portuguese, you name it, there's so many languages. But there should be a language that across the globe everybody speaks. I think, like here in America, I live in the United States of America. America's first language is English. Terran should be a language taught right next to English and not how they treat Spanish in American schools. Because kids take Spanish and French in school, and when they grow up, they still don't know Spanish or French. They only know English. That tells you how bad American schools are. Let me see. So the Terran language, okay? This is something that has to be made up. People know how to make languages. People know how to make writing systems these days. It's much easier than it was in the ancient world, right? There must be an alphabet. There must be a reading system. And actually, I think also there should be a normal system that is of the Terran belief system. Why? Because that way you will be able to go anywhere in the world and everybody speaks Terran. People in America speak English, they also speak Terran. People in Mexico speak Spanish, but they also speak Terran. People in France speak French and German and Spanish, but they also speak Terran. Everybody would know this language. That way, no matter where you travel on the globe, there would not be a language barrier. So people say right now the language of business is English, and that's fine. But don't everybody want to learn English? And English is a tough language for a lot of people to learn. Spanish is a much simpler language, and there are languages in this world like Cantonese and Mandarin that is extremely hard for us in the West. And I say West not as like I'm a Westerner, but in the Western Hemisphere, it's very hard for us to learn. Let me give you an example. I'm an American citizen. Nothing against us as American citizens. But American citizens do not learn other languages. It's very important when the empire comes that there's a language that everybody speaks no matter where they come from. Now, let's take an example, the African continent, the continent of my ancestry, which I hope to be where the Terran Empire sprouts from. I hope to be the place, the home of the empire. I hope it to be the spread of the empire to the whole world. On the African continent, there's too many god doggone languages. There's Arabic, there's English, there's French, there's German, there's Afrikaans, there's all these languages. But there should be one tongue spoken amongst all the people. This is not going to be a preachy one for you, but I'm going to be here for a while and things are going to switch up. Another thing that must happen if the empire is to be successful is an understanding of a merging of cultures. This ideal of multiculturalism is a great idea. But what you don't understand about human history, culture, religion, and language kills people. Long before they get and kill you before you get color involved, they get to that too eventually. But language will get you killed in a lot of places. Your culture will get you killed in a lot of places, and so will your religion. This has been the mass extinction thing. You know, people talk about weapons of mass destruction. Humankind has never needed weapons of mass destruction to kill each other. We killed each other over things that were meant for other things. I'll give you an example. A spear was meant to spear fish. An arrow was meant to kill deer and antelope. That's what it was meant for. Honestly, it was not necessarily meant to be a weapon, was it? A shield was meant to shield you from an oncoming attacking of an animal. Human beings found out you could use this as weapons against other human beings. And so we began the long history of war. Bows, arrows, sticks, and stones, swords was meant to till the ground. You know what? There's an old saying in the Testament of the Bible where their plowshares, they would hammer their swords into plowshares, right? Truth of the matter, in human history, people found out how good a plowshare was and they hammered that into swords. Human being, everything that we once used as a tool became a weapon of war. An axe was meant to chop trees until we found out how good they were at chopping people. Fireworks were used for entertainment in China for thousands of years until a person figured out you could turn gunpowder into a lethal weapon of destruction. That's human beings. We must change the culture of mankind. If we are to see each other as sisters and brothers and as equals, let me say another thing that I must say. Because the Unitarian also believes in like this ideal of everybody has to have an equal playing field when they start their lives. You know, people say we are born unequal. But see, they say that when they are at the top. One thing that we know about human beings in their history, in the history of all of us as humans, is who was once at the top will be at the bottom, and vice versa. The world flips like a pancake, and it will flip again. Either with time or disaster, sooner or later, who was at the top will be at the bottom. That is just how the world is, and it's always been that way. Now, let's talk about the future. The empire cannot be sustained with foolishness and dumbness and stupidity and craziness and ratchetness and all these isms that we have in us as human beings. It's across the board, but us black folks put our shit on TV and YouTube way too much. For us, We must change our internal. Know how I talked in my first video about a revolution and an evolution? That has to come from within self. There's nobody that can tell you to be a better person. You must want to be a better person and stop being foolish. It's like the same thing with racism. You can't tell a person to stop being racist. You can't tell a person to stop being intolerant. They must want to do that. And that is the problem we live as humans. And that is why the Terran Empire is very important to happen. Because across the board, from home, school, and family, we must breathe this out of ourselves. We have to. If we don't, human race won't survive. I'm gonna give you an example. Hatred has a way of eating you up. You can use it as a weapon and a tool against a people that is weaker than you. But eventually, the same hatred that you use as a weapon will turn on you. It may not hit a generation or two, it might hit 3 or 4 generations, but it will come. And that is just the way the world is. Now, let's move on over to the unification. Unification of all races of people. This is what is very, very important. From China to Africa, from Russia to England, to Spain to Mexico. We must remove the term I am a Mexican, I am an American, I am a Canadian, I am an Englishman, I'm a Frenchman, I'm Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Filipino. That needs to be removed in the empire. There must be one unifying idea that we are Terran. I'm not a black Terran, I'm not a white Terran, I'm a Terran. The empire must stress this. See, people say to me, well, you can't change people's hearts. You can't, but you can get to their kids and change them. No matter how much a parent puts in. See, this is another thing I must say about society. And this is how sometimes kids get away from their parents. The society as a whole also raises your children. That's another thing nobody never talks about. It's not, no matter what you say to your kid, if they live in an environment that is fucked up, at a certain level, it will fuck them up. And that is the truth. If all they see is lying, cheating, stealing, even if you try to bar this from their eyes, but when they go out the house and see this, this is what they will emulate. Why do you think on YouTube and so many other platforms of media across the world, they use these images, these things that they want to make these kids get? They are slowly brainwashing them. And brainwashing sometimes can be a great tool for a better thing. Now, listen what I'm talking about. I'm talking about program. The human brain is a computer. It can be programmed. You can program a person to be hateful, evil, and racist, and you also can program a person to be loving, respectful, and honorable. Now, ain't everybody gonna be the same on every level. Some people are gonna be really good in the empire, certain things, and that's why they'll be at a higher level. But not everybody needs to be at the same level. But how we change this is there are black people that should not be at my level. They're just not. What I mean by that is they should be higher than me. And there's some white people that up top, like our current president of the United States. There's no fucking way this guy should be anywhere near the presidency. He's a complete buffoon. But I'm not criticizing him as a human being. I'm just saying he does not have the level or the intelligence to be president. Think for 1 minute. How many men have been president in the United States of America that shouldn't have been? Lots. It's not a question necessarily of their intelligence, but of their integrity and their honor and their duty to the people. Your duty is not to try to enrich certain people and hurt the rest of society. The empire must be quick and extreme in this measure to make sure that you never make a dichotomy between rich, poor, and middle class that way. The middle class, the rich, and the poor is a global thing. We will always have that. But what we must do is, with the social welfare state, is to make sure that no one goes hungry, no one is homeless, even if they can't work. Let's go on to women. It is my belief system, if you're going to build a foundation of the home as the foundation of this empire, women should be mothers. Now, I'm not saying that women should not work. Women, listen, I'm socialist as they come. I'm very socialistic. But I think, honestly, that the family in this is one of the greatest things. See, I'm going to say this as a male. Please don't get mad at me, people, for saying this. A man's job is to take care of his family, and a woman's job is to take care of her husband and her children. Now, let's say if a woman has kids, has 4 kids, and then turns around, has her education, and wants to go out and get a job, she should get the first of the list and she should work. But what if a woman has had a job for 10 or 15 years and say, okay, now I want to have children, I don't want to work anymore, but I want to make sure that this side of the government takes care. We should do that. This is how you create a stable, replaceable society and population. This idea that you try to force women to work where women's main job is to be their mother of the children. They are the first teacher of the child. This is their main job. The main job of a man is to defend his family. This is on a homo sapien level. This is scientific. Now, I know we live in modern society, but understand something, my friends. This modern society that we have made is not working. It's not. Society is breaking down on a lot of different levels. This is why there's so much depression. There's so many women out here that have to feel like they need to look a certain way to get a man, and men feeling like the same way they need to be a certain kind of way to be a man to get a woman. This is social construct is breaking down. Nobody's going to be perfect. Okay, she's too skinny. Okay, then she's not your type of girl, and you need to find you a skinny a girl who's a little bit thicker that you may like. Or no, you cannot do that. Not everybody's meant to look the same. That's not where we're at on the world global stage yet. That's within during the time of the empire where everybody started to mix with each other. And there's no more black, no more white. Then we get to a point where we all kind of look kind of brown, you know? But we can't never get to that point because we have to understand that we have to move beyond where we're at. But at the same time, okay, like I said on one of my earlier ones, right? When I'm talking about the empire here, is that sometimes maybe it's the father who will stay home with the children. And maybe he will be the great figure in the household and the woman will go out and work. That's fine. But somebody has to be at home with the children. No, nothing's wrong with daycare, but the main ideal of this was to slow down the expand of the black population. That's why they basically did away with the welfare state. Because they thought it was going to be too many niggas in America. It still didn't stop the expanse of the black population. Even with all the killing, AIDS, abortion, none of that has stopped the growth of the black population. It's almost impossible to get rid of us as a people. You can't do it. God knows people have tried and they've all failed at it. Now, let's go on to the future. Europe is a continent that is dying. Now, they're thriving economically, but in mortality, they're going extinct. I will point to places around the world that I will tell you that have sharp populations declines that no one talks about in the Latin world. Outside of those places that have a heavily black population that's Latino, even in that part of the world, their population is starting to decline. Why? You go over to Russia, that population will be gone in 100 years. It'll be 20 million Russians left on the planet in 100 years if they can't pick up their population, but there's a problem. Go over to China, Japan, and slowly as these countries become economically viable, their populations decline. So you either can have a big population and a poor society, a more affluent population, and nobody to replace them. Why is that? The key to society to maintain itself and to sustain itself is children. Let me say it again. The most important part to sustain a society is not wealth, not power, but children. I don't care where you come from on this planet. You cut off people's children, that's the end of their people. That's it. And as populations decline in certain places and sperm count goes down, we as black people know this story because we're very old people. It's something genetic in us that's telling us to make more and more babies. Why? We're in survival mode. And the rest of the world is not paying attention to this. Some are, they're thinking like we got to slow down. You can't do it. It's not going to happen. That population in Africa, Haiti, Jamaica is just expanding out crazy. It's because a mass thing is going to happen in this world and it's coming down the pipe. Now, let's talk religion about the Unitarian. Let me give a solution on this population thing first, right? As a race, as the human race, we have to think about sharing DNA. So people ask me, what does that mean? You all need some blacking. I'm being serious. Listen, I know some of you don't want to hear that, but listen to what I'm saying. You all need an influx of black DNA, either through women or men or through breeding or whatever. Because if you don't get it, like Europe, you will not be able to replace your numbers. You will go extinct. Simple as that. Moving on. Let's talk about the Unitarian religion. The Unitarian is not just religion, but I'm going to start with that. Now, let me also say this. In an empire, there will be an emperor. There will be a senate, to say the least. And there will be a House of Commons. So there will be forms of government. Okay? But there will be an emperor who will have the most power, and there will be a royal family. But even though we will have that, we must also have an ideal of spreading. Okay, I'm about to say something that's going to get me in trouble. We got to understand that this kind of freedom that we so-called got now has not worked for us. It is going to kill us off. This unrelenting freedom of capitalism, where they're destroying the planet, it's going to kill us. So the Unitarian, and all it means is the one hand will work with the other. Nobody will be on a certain number of money. Let's say you are a billionaire, right? You got $1 billion, but you made 22 next year. Give the rest of that money back into the government to help other people throughout the world. That's what you do. So people sit up there and say, what do you mean? Simple. You reinvest into people. Let's say you made $32 billion. 22 back into the main society, the other 10 back into your company. Keep $2 billion to yourself. I think that's more than fair. You will always be rich. No one will ever think for 1 minute. Your billion will be worth more than 100 billion. Why? Because everybody will be eating. They'll be constantly buying your products. Your power and your prestige amongst people will be higher than it is right now. Rich people in this world right now are as feared as anything else. People think they are evil. And in some cases, they do evil things by promoting the drilling in the Arctic Circle, which is insane. We have enough technology on this planet today where we should not use fossil fuels. We should. We should be on to newer and different energy sources on this planet, but we can't do it. Unitarian does that. Let's move over to other organizations that will work within the empire. We must grow beyond what the commandant means. The commandant means the changing of the mind. The Unitarian must promote this. What does that mean? Once again I say that means mixing. You cannot see black, white, Puerto Rican, Mexican, whatever you may be. You have to get that out of your mind. The generation of children that will be born from this union will be one unitary people. They will all be Terran. That's the point. Now I know me as a black man as I am right now, I'm gonna lose my nappy curls, and that's fine. White people might lose their blonde streaks. That's fine. Maybe everybody have black hair. That's fine. Maybe we all be a certain color, tan or brown. That's fine. We have to get to that point. And once we get to the point where there's not a color for us to kill each other over, then we must remove the culture that will allow us to kill each other. We must take those religions off the table that will have us killing each other. The languages is on the table that will have us killing each other. You can't have that. One step at a time, brothers and sisters, the Unitarian will move. For those who are Marxists and socialists that hear this, right? Understand, I'm with you. I believe in the liberation of people, but you cannot liberate someone and have them eating nothing. You cannot liberate someone into a socialist society that dictates to them like Joseph Stalin. Stalin was a socialist, but he was evil. Hitler was a fascist. He was evil. You can't have these two opposing forces. Trump's a capitalist. He is evil. You cannot have that. The Unitarian is to make sure that the social welfare state stays in place. College education shall be free. High school education shall be free. Papers, pencils, and books. These things are essential for young boys and girls and their minds to work. But every kid should have a laptop and a computer like most of them got in the day. Everywhere. From one end of the planet to the next. The internet as essential as water in the 21st century. It is. Education. But it must be the right type of education. It must promote to its core the integration and relations of moving all the races in the world to become one. The Terran Empire cannot be just black, it can't be white, it can't be Asian, it can't be Mexican, it can't be nothing. It has to be us all, or it will fall. Rome fell because it did not incorporate the European tribes that were all around them. China's empires fell because it did not try to incorporate everybody it could have. And plus the leadership became corrupt. Africa's empires fell from corruption and stupidity. The Native American empires of the Aztecs, the Mayans, and you name it, were destroyed. We must get beyond this foolishness. That's the coming of the dawn. You must go beyond what you see with your eyes. You have to open your mind, brothers and sisters. Let's say there is a God to you. You think God is happy with you mistreating your brothers and sisters like dirt and dogs? You think God is happy with you mistreating your children, your blood like dirt and dogs? Think for 1 second. If there is a heaven or a hell, you're closer to going to hell than heaven every single day because of the way you act. And the Unitarian wants you to be a better person, wants you to have honor and respect and loyalty for your family. Your daughter is just as valuable as your son. And your son valuable as your daughter, and no matter how many bamboodles you have, which means kids, they're all yours, and they must be treasured by you. Though you do not own them, they're just yours by your blood. They have their own lives and their own spirit from the Creator that made us all. You see? Not an atheist, but I'm a realist. Let's move on. The Don also dictates that we let certain things go. Certain music has to go. Certain behaviors have to go. Certain even habits have to go. People say, what do you mean? Being outright serious, which we don't eat too healthy. None of us do. We don't think too healthy. We let things in us that take us over and make us act a certain way. Can't do that no more. People say to me, well, you like video games. Video games, they never killed nobody, but the gun has. But long before there was a gun, there was a sword, there was a spear, and human beings have always killed each other. Taking a gun from a person ain't going to stop them from killing. You have to take the killer out of them. And how you get there, that's a part of the coming of the dawn. We have to get to that point to realize what it is in certain people that make them want to kill another human being. And we have to slowly, over generations, remove this urge for people to kill each other, to hurt each other, to mistreat each other. We have to take this urge out of people to hurt kids. The urge to stop hurting old folk. This is madness. We have to get past this. Now let's talk about the next thing of the Unitarian and the 5 tenets. Let's go beyond the 5 tenets, okay? It's 5 tenets. Economic absolution. What does that mean? That means a pot in every home and a chicken to put in it. That doesn't literally mean a chicken in a pot. It means that everyone is fed and everyone should eat. A kibbutz in Israel is a communal farm. Everybody in the area chips in. It's not necessarily owned by that person, but the food is shared and sold and everybody gets a piece. Big corporate farms should not happen. This is madness. I think families, this is where the great houses come in. A great house like the Gardners should control the farms. And other families could too. Yes, they will enrich themselves to a certain number. As I said, no one gets over $1 billion. And the rest of the money goes back into society as they show as it should. But this food should be shared. What is not sold should be given to the poor. It is given. Taken to them. We can't allow homelessness nowhere. We can't do it. So, people say this will cost too much money. Does it cost as much money as it does to start a war with a country that never did nothing to America, does it? $1 trillion. Think about this for a second. With $1 trillion, you could have made everybody in the United States or the United whole Western Hemisphere unhomeless for the rest of their lives with $1 trillion. That's how much $1 trillion can buy you, because the dollar has its value. What does it mean? What do we keep from the cultures that we're going to get rid of? The Chinese work ethic must be given to everybody, to the Africans, to the Europeans. Nobody work like the Chinese do. Fuck. Don't nobody work like the Asians do. Everybody needs to take that work ethic. Everybody needs to take a little bit of their parenting skills. Spiritually, people need to take more from black people because black folks are real spiritual. Technology-wise, that really doesn't have a way of doing that because you don't really know who makes anything anymore. Things come out and we think one person made it and somebody else did. That has always been. So there's no way of knowing that. The dawn must come, and it's one step at a time for humanity to dawn our minds. Now, like I say to certain people who say, well, you got the Unitarian Church. I'm like I once said, you don't have to follow any religion. Unitarian just offers that to people. For those that want to go and they don't want to necessarily stay with their old religion. But again, you want to be Muslim, you can be Muslim. You want to be Christian, you can be Christian. You don't want to believe anything, you have that right. Nobody's going to force you to go to any church or service of any kind. That is not the Terran way. Now, the freedoms that we so-called have, there will be freedoms, but it will not be like it is. So this thing we got going on here is not working. Because truly, the freedom we so-called have is not free. Freedom has never been free. Freedom is always bought with the blood of those that fought to have it. People have always had to die to get their freedom. And that's the truth. Anybody telling you that's not, they're lying. America had to bleed to free itself from Britain. Black folks had to bleed to free themselves from slavery throughout this hemisphere. Europe had to bleed to free itself from Nazism. Europe had to bleed to free itself from communism. And the world will bleed to free itself from capitalism, because it's another thing that's choking us and killing us. We have to go beyond those labels. The collective society, one hand will work with the other. Yes, there will be areas where people will be well-to-do. There will be places where people live better than you. But it's up to you to take care of your neighborhood and make sure no garbage on the ground. But the government will do its part. The empire will do its part. Crime. This ideal of people walking around boom, boom, bang, shooting each other, not in the empire. Gangs, all gangs, their names, their symbols will be abolished. All of them. Crip, Blood, Pachuco, 2-6er, Four Corner Hustler, you name it. All of that is gone. KKK, Skinhead, Dream Dragon, the Asian boys, all of that must be gone. Triad, Yakuza, Mafioso, Costa Nostra, all must be gone. Oh, well, also don't forget the cartels, yeah. Them too. We must remove crime as an alternative for poor people. And when we remove that opportunity for poor people not to join a criminal organization just to survive, we must replace that with something that helps them move to a better place. Now, let's talk about the empire as a whole, coming of the dawn. The empire's tenets are simple. You follow them, you prosper. You don't, and you will be removed from. Listen, before I say this and people think I'm going to be evil on this one, if you're going to have the Catarians to work, you cannot have these people throwing bombs everywhere. You cannot have this agitation shit anymore. No, you can't have that. You will absorb all those that are willing to come in. No matter how far right or left they are. No matter how ideology or racist they are. We will let you in. But you're not coming in to destroy. You're coming in to help. You're coming in to make mankind brothers and sisters. No matter how extreme you may feel. But the Unitarian demands, if you do not wish to be a part of society, you must be removed from it. Nobody's talking about killing them, but putting them in a place like on an island somewhere where they can go ahead and murder each other is all right with me. We must move to this idea. People will say to me, what about in your community, like Farrakhan or people like that? You got to understand, Farrakhan didn't come out of nowhere. The Black Panthers didn't come out of nowhere. They were a response to people fucking with us. Wasn't fucking with you. To be honest, you know, we got to move beyond that. Farrakhan's a reasonable man. Jared Allen, the white separatist motherfucker, is a reasonable man. He will understand that he would either come in and be a part of the empire or he will be removed from it. People say prison is horrible. People being executed is horrible. Being exiled to a place where you cannot leave is worse than prison. It's not a prison. There are no walls, no guards. Your ass just can't get off of that place. You can't leave that one spot. In a way, I guess it would be a prison, to be honest. But the sanctity and the growth of society for the rest of the world will be beneficial. Because sometimes you have to remove certain things from the world if it's going to work. If you're trying to promote a stable, kind situation, some things will have to be removed. Let's just be real. Lastly tonight, the empire needs your help. I am not asking for your money. I don't have no Patreon. I don't have none of this other stuff. I'm not asking you for that. I'm asking for you to subscribe. I'm asking you to lend your voices in your comment section. I need your help. Tell me what I need to improve as a person. Tell me what I need to do to help us make the empire possible. I want you to help me make the dawn come. Because the dawn is just not me, it's within you. The sun does not rise in one place in the world and not in the next. Where it's dark here is sunny somewhere else. Everywhere the sun rises. And the sun rises within you. So give me your input. Give me your feelings about certain things. Let me know. Hail the Empire. Hail the Terran Empire. There is but one nation. There is but one people. And there is but one God. Hail the Empire.